Where are they now? Joyce. Thanks to their careful saving, Joyce and her husband Graham were much more comfortably off than her parents by the time they had their 2 boys when they were in their late 20s. Joyce gave up work to look after the children when they were small. Later, she started work again, taking a part-time cleaning job. Meanwhile, Graham worked his way up to a managerial role. Now retired, Joyce feels lucky that she is still happily married, unlike friends whose marriages ended in divorce. She is pleased that her family have done well for themselves and that her sons are both homeowners. Sometimes I wonder if I could have carried on at school and been a teacher, because I would have loved to have taught. But I was too young to realise how important the exams were, and life has different things in store for you. Where are they now? Andrea. Andrea stayed in London, which she felt gave her the space to be openly gay. She had her first serious girlfriend in her late 20s. She met the love of her life, Linda, in her 30s, and they are still together. Andrea started work in pharmaceutical research, later retraining and moving into charity work. Looking back, she feels that a combination of workplace sexism and her own anxieties sometimes held her back. Andrea was pleased to retire at 65, and she and Linda moved further out of London to enjoy their retirement. Andrea spends a lot of time at her allotment and volunteers at the local food bank. She is still politically active and campaigns against climate change. She was arrested for the first time in her life at an Extinction Rebellion protest, aged 69. Andrea celebrated her 70th birthday with a walk and a picnic with Linda and her friends. Where are they now? Cynthia. Cynthia had her first child in 1969, when she was 26, and after a short break, she returned to full-time work. 2 years later, she had her second child and stopped full-time work, later becoming a part-time cleaner. At this point, she and Roy bought the terraced house in the Manchester area where they still live. They have a modest working-class standard of life. Cynthia feels fortunate in later life to be supported by her family and is still actively involved in her church community, as is Roy. Her philosophy has been to live life one day at a time. She went on to have 6 boys and girls who have all been upwardly mobile, social workers, entrepreneurs, professional musicians, and has 1 grandchild. While her husband spends time on their allotment growing produce that they share with friends in the church and neighbourhood, Cynthia now devotes more time to her long-standing love of singing and writing her own songs. She made her first gospel album when she was 60. Where are they now? Pamela. Pamela later met and married her second husband, John. This was the loving relationship that she had hoped for. They had 2 children, and in her late 30s, Pamela was reunited with the daughter who had been adopted. Pamela gave up her successful management career to look after her children while they were young, later returning to work part-time. After coming up with a genius idea, Pamela became a very successful entrepreneur. She formally retired in her 60s, but is still involved in the business. Now 68, she lives alone after her husband passed away. Looking back, she doesn't regret not becoming a secretary, though she does wonder what would have happened if she had been able to stay on for A-levels and go to university. Where are they now? Liz. Liz felt a responsibility to provide a good life for her son, Michael. She felt guilty about being a single mum, and because Michael was the only child in his class who wasn't white. Determined to better herself, Liz bought a house on the verge of collapse and did it up to make a home for her and Michael. She worked hard and is proud of her career as a paralegal. Liz regrets her marriage to the wrong man and having a child with him, even if her son has been a joy. But she doesn't regret following her dreams to America. Recently retired, Liz had planned to continue her travels, but this hasn't happened yet, with the COVID-19 pandemic making it seem less likely. Michael recently moved back in with her, together with his girlfriend and daughter, so home is quite full. Liz would like her own space, but has always tried to provide security for her son to make up for him not having a father. Where are they now? Meg. In her 30s, Meg volunteered, then worked in a school for children with special educational needs. She enjoyed this work and decided to build a career out of it. She took courses at her local college, gaining qualifications in health and social care, and making new friends. Sadly, her marriage became increasingly stormy. Fearing for her life, she left her violent husband, but this meant leaving behind her teenage children. Meg eventually rebuilt relations with one of her sons, but remained estranged from the other. A second marriage followed, but this was short-lived. Meg now lives with her third husband in a council house on the same estate where she raised her children. Since her 40s, she has had several serious health issues, including cancer twice. She now uses a wheelchair, and her husband is her carer. Despite her limited mobility, Meg enjoys occasional trips away. She gets great pleasure and a boost to her self-esteem from her role as a treasurer at the local social club. Where are they now? Valerie. As a teenager, Valerie's dream was to have children and travel, and she has done both. Looking back, she feels that 18 was too young to become a mum, though she knows it wasn't unusual at the time. When her children were 10 and 12, Valerie went back to full-time office work. I'd not worked since I was 19, and so when I went back to full-time work, and I was good at it, it surprised me. It was a real confidence boost. Valerie wishes she could have had more of a career, but a few years later, Andy retired from the Navy, and the family moved to the Midlands with his new job. Shortly afterwards, Valerie fell pregnant. They went on to have 2 more children, and Valerie gave up work to look after them. Motherhood in her late 30s was quite different. She felt more in control and could enjoy it more. She went abroad for the first time aged 30, and has since been all over the world, from America to Zimbabwe. Now in her mid-70s, Valerie has lived alone since Andy died 7 years ago. She still has the travel bug and goes on regular adventures with her sister, Maureen. Where are they now? Sarah. Sarah had 3 children by the time she was 27. The family lived abroad for a while because of James's work. She stopped nursing because shift work did not fit round caring for young children, later retraining as a teacher. She was good at her job and worked her way up to being a head teacher. Sarah loved teaching and retired at 60, before becoming a magistrate and working part-time until 70. With 2 well-paid jobs, Sarah and James bought a large house in a desirable village within an easy commute of town. They loved travel and going to the theatre, and Sarah loves spending time in her garden. Her children are in their 40s now, with children of their own. It took me longer than most to gain in confidence. I loved seeing my children, especially my daughters, being so much more sure of themselves.